But we begin in New York as it was a beatdown that took place on Monday Night Football as the Seattle Seahawks beat the New York Giants 24-3. For the Seahawks, Geno Smith went 13 of 20. He threw for 110 passing yards, 1 touchdown. He left the game briefly with a knee injury. He did return. For the Giants, Daniel Jones went 17 of 34. He threw for 203 passing yards, 2 interceptions. Here's Giants head coach Brian Daboll after the game.
What bothers you most about what just happened out there?
Well, we didn't play a complimentary football game, so turned the football over. Had some opportunities, but didn't score any points. Didn't get the job done. So.
What do you believe contributed to the protection breakdowns?
Probably a little bit of everything. We had some longer routes at times. Got beat at times, reads at times, calls at times. I'd say kind of collection of everything.
What were you trying to show Daniel on that interception? The cameras caught you showing the tablet to him.
I was trying to show him, kind of see what he thought, and then kind of tell him what I saw.
Didn't look like you were too happy because you kind of tossed the tablet as you walked away. I mean, what was supposed to happen on that route? Was it?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the particulars of it. Just we didn't get the job done.
That was Giants head coach Brian Daboll after the Seahawks 24-3 win over the Giants last night. So, my biggest takeaway from the Seahawks win over the Giants last night is the New York Giants made a mistake giving Daniel Jones a 4-year, $160 million deal this prior offseason. That was a mistake because when you look at the New York Giants, I know the Giants have injuries right now on their offensive line. Their starting left tackle, Andrew Thomas, did not play in the game last night. And the Giants have had protection issues all season long in these first 4 games. But the Giants made a mistake because, and I said this before the season, the mistake that the Giants made was they franchise tagged Saquon Barkley, but Saquon, even though he's their running back, he is their best player. Because when you look at Daniel Jones has not performed well, first in primetime. He hasn't played well in primetime games. And overall, in general, he has not performed well enough to be trusted as your franchise quarterback moving forward. Look at Daniel Jones for his career. Daniel Jones has 60 touchdowns, 40 interceptions, 12,368 passing yards. He's completed 69% of his passes. But throughout the 5 years he's been in the NFL, because this would be his 5th year. Last year he had 15 touchdowns. He had 15 touchdowns in 2022, and everyone was talking about, oh my God, the Giants have found them a franchise quarterback. Throwing 15 touchdowns? The man didn't even have 20 touchdown passes last season. Now, he had the best year of his career statistically from a touchdown standpoint. He had 24 touchdowns in 2019, but over the last few years, Daniel Jones, in my eyes, has never been the franchise quarterback that the Giants could trust moving forward. He was just their only option. Daniel Jones was the only option that the New York Giants had to choose from. But I said it during the offseason, and I'm going to say it again. Instead of the Giants placing the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley, they should have placed the franchise tag on Daniel Jones. And you could have gave Saquon Barkley a deal, 3 years, $40 million. And Saquon would have been okay with that type of deal. And I know Saquon's hurt right now, but make no mistake about it. Saquon Barkley is the best player on this Giants football team. And the only reason why Daniel Jones had some success last year is because of Saquon Barkley. Let's look at Daniel Jones last year when running backs have 100 yards or more on the Giants. Last year, when running backs have less than 100 yards, Daniel Jones, he went 5-7-1. He completed 65% of his passes, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, passer rating 86.6. When they have 100 yards or more, Daniel Jones, he's 5-0. He completes 72% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, only 1 interception. His passer rating is 113.8. So Daniel Jones is the prototypical quarterback who needs a reliable running game to be effective. He's not the kind of quarterback who you can depend on to carry you when you have other weaknesses on your football team. That is not who Daniel Jones is. He's not that kind of guy. And that's why I felt like they made a mistake giving him this 4-year, $160 million deal. Now, this contract is not a big contract per se. Like they're not paying him a bunch of money. Obviously, if it's 4 years, $160 million, it's going to be $40 million per season. But I just felt like they should have franchise tagged Daniel Jones and had a wait and see approach and see if he performed well this year. Because you look at Daniel Jones, this is starting quarterback since the 1970 merger. He has the worst primetime win percentage in NFL history. The man is 1-12 in primetime games. 1-12. If my math is correct, that would be 8%. And he's 0-7 on Monday Night Football. And for whatever reason, the NFL continues to put the Giants in primetime slots. In primetime slots. This year, the Giants have gotten outscored in primetime 94-15. 94-15. They got blew out in week 1 by the Dallas Cowboys. And then in week 3, the San Francisco 49ers blew them off the field in San Francisco. And in this matchup, they got embarrassed by the Seattle Seahawks. Roger Goodell, please stop putting the New York Giants on primetime. Please stop putting them in primetime, man. Please. I am begging from, as an NFL fan, as an NFL person that loves the sport, and as a sports broadcaster, please stop putting the New York Giants in primetime. The Giants have been outscored 64-3 at home this season. They got beat 40-0 by the Cowboys in week 1, and then they lost last night 24-3. So they've played in Sunday Night Football, they've played on Thursday Night Football, and they've played on Monday Night Football. And one thing is clear: the New York Giants are not a good football team. I said it coming into the season. They're not going to make the playoffs. And right now, the Washington Commanders, in my eyes, have elevated to where they're going to be the third best team in the NFC East. It's no longer the New York Giants. The Giants will finish last in the NFC East, and it's messed up because if you didn't give Daniel Jones that money, they could have brought Daniel Jones back, and even if they had a rough season this year, they could have drafted one of those quarterbacks that's going to be entering the draft next year. And they still possibly can, but you still got Daniel Jones on your roster. It won't make sense for the Giants to move off of Daniel Jones until, I believe, after next year. The cap hit is going to be enormous, I believe. So I feel like the offensive line isn't protecting and giving up 11 sacks. And I'm going to get to Seattle in a minute. The Seahawks were teeing off on the Giants last night. They were teeing off on the Giants and just taking turns at getting sacks on Daniel Jones. Just taking turns. And then defensively, the Giants have the most missed tackles in the NFL in the first 4 games of the season. They have not done a good job at being able to tackle defensively. Noah Fant caught a pass last night from Drew Lock because Geno Smith had to miss a few series with that knee injury. He catches a pass from Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and he goes up the sideline, and no Giants defender tries to bring him down. It's like he just goes right up the sideline. And that's the kind of play where you start wondering, are these guys bought in right now? Are they bought in? But when you look at the Giants over the next 5 weeks, they have to go to Miami. That's a loss. Then they have to go to Buffalo. That's a loss. Home against the Commanders, home against the Jets, and then they are at the Raiders. So the next 2 weeks, they will be losses. So they'll be 1-5, and they're probably going to lose to the Commanders. So they'll be 1-6, and their season is over. Now, when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks, I believe that the Seattle Seahawks could be that third team in the NFC that could challenge the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. We've been talking about the team being the Cowboys as the third best team in the NFC, but I think we got to seriously consider having the Seattle Seahawks in that conversation. I think the Seattle Seahawks are the real deal, and defensively, what they were able to do last night, I feel like we have to talk about it and give them the credit that they deserve. And I feel like they overall defense, obviously, defensively, they are led by defensive coordinator Clint Hurt. Give them credit. They had 11 sacks last night. 11 sacks. And this brother, Devon Witherspoon, had a great performance last night. 2 sacks, had an interception return for a touchdown, 4 pressures on Daniel Jones. He had a sensational performance last night. And this is the Seahawks defense overall. They had 11 sacks. That's tied for the most in a game in team history. They're the second team to record 11 sacks and a pick 6 in a game since 1963. 26 pressures. That's their most in a game since 2009. That's how great that Seahawks defense was last night. So you got to give that Seahawks defense a lot of credit. They brought back Bobby Wagner. You still got up front Mario Edwards, Draymond Jones, and last night they lost Jamal Adams last night. He had to leave this game with a concussion. But Condre Diggs had an interception, and I like this Seahawks football team. I really, really do. Besides that week 1 stinker against the Rams, the Seahawks have played well in their last 3 games. They beat the Lions in week 2, I believe. I think that was week 2. And then they had a great win last week as well, and then they played well last night. I think the Seattle Seahawks are a team that we got to consider being the biggest threats to the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. And I like how Geno Smith has played. I really, really do. I thought last year the way that Geno Smith was able to resurrect his career last year, Geno Smith led the NFC in touchdown passes, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 4,282 passing yards. I trust Geno Smith. I really, really do. I trust Geno Smith to where he won't lose games for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, he's not elite like a Patrick Mahomes or like a Josh Allen or like a Justin Herbert or, like a Lamar Jackson. But I believe that Geno Smith at his best, he can be good on some occasions. Maybe as good as a Jared Goff. I think Geno Smith and Jared Goff are on the same level when Geno is at his best. So I like the way Geno is playing. I really, really do. And offensively, you still got DK Metcalf. You still got Tyler Lockett. Both receivers had over 1,000 receiving yards last year. And in the backfield, you got Kenneth Walker III. He's in his sophomore season in the NFL. He had a tremendous rookie season. I like the Seattle Seahawks. I already had them as a playoff team coming into the season. But I was talking about how the Saints were the sleepers in the NFC. I think it's the Seattle Seahawks. And they are the biggest threats to the Niners and the Eagles in the NFC right now. Give them credit. And they have an experienced head coach in Pete Carroll. He's won a lot of games in the NFL. So I think Seattle is one of those teams that we got to keep an eye on as the season goes along. And they could challenge the Niners in the NFC West. I have the Niners winning the NFC West, but the Seahawks could challenge them in that division. And we'll see what happens as the season goes along. But shout out to Seattle and for their dominant win over the Giants last night.